Welcome to Teaching Artistry with Courtney J. Body. I am Courtney J. Body. This is a podcast that celebrates artists and advocates for community engagement. And like you, I am home. I am practicing social distancing and staying at home and looking for ways to connect as much as possible with our faces as much as we can. And so we are partnering with Creative Generation to launch a video series that is called hashtag Keep Making Art. And this is where I am asking or talking to artists and creatives who are making their own art, sharing their own art, and or they are inviting or creating opportunities for others to make and share art. I'd like to get right to our guest, our very special guest, Annie Montgomery. Hi, Annie.
Hello, how are you?
How are you? Yes,
I'm good.
I'm good. Thank you. Yes, I'm good. I'm good. You're good. Great. So tell me, how are you and your family doing?
Well, we're like you. We're all home. My daughter is home from college as well. So the five of us are here in Brooklyn. Thankfully, we're all well. We're all healthy. We're all working at home. David, my husband, works full time. I work full time. I have 3 full-time students. So we are Zooming and distance learning from, bright and early till the evening. We take some scheduled walks every day with my 12-year-old to make sure he gets some activity. And that's it. We go to the store about once a week because we can't get online delivery. Can't get a slot. But I mean, we're lucky. Right now, we're, healthy and employed, and we're very thankful for that. So I
Mm.
don't take that for granted.
Yeah, I've been trying to be more have more gratitude and find new ways to just discover new things as I'm in the same place all the time.
Yeah.
But today I was able to go to the grocery store for the first time in 4 weeks, and it was quite an experience, but I made it and it actually felt great. Just to
Yeah.
do something that felt something like normal.
Mhm.
So tell me, what is your, or tell everybody, what is your role in arts or arts education?
Well, I'm a longtime teaching artist. I used to teach for the New Victory once
Oh,
upon a
is
time.
that right?
That's right. um, but after 20 years of being a teaching artist, somehow I found my way into more of an administrative role. And so now I'm the director of education for an organization called Lifetime Arts. I found my way there primarily because I started teaching older adults for about 8 years, really frequently through a lot of their first projects. So I got to know them. And I'm not a traditional director of education. I don't have a roster of teaching artists that I send out. In fact, we don't even do our own programs. What we are is a service organization that builds the capacity of other organizations to do their own programs. So what my role looks like as a teaching artist, or I should say as a director of education, is very much though like a teaching artist still, where I primarily teach for them. I do trainings all over the country for organizations, conferences, museums, arts and culturals, cities, governments, whatever, whoever is interested in bringing creative aging programming to older adults in a community, then Lifetime Arts has really become sort of the go-to person to train them and to help build their capacity to deliver this kind of programming. So I write and design all of the professional development trainings for the different kinds of constituents that we serve. So it might be librarians, or it could be senior service organizations, or it might be teaching artists, or it might be an arts and cultural. So each training looks a little bit different. I do have a team of Lifetime Arts trainers who I also take through professional development series and training and ongoing training, and I hire them. So I guess you would think of them as my teaching artist roster
Mhm.
more so than a traditional roster. And then I also, with Lifetime Arts, because we're a small organization, we work in everything. So, sometimes I'm helping, our CEO and our executive director. They're definitely the development people, but we definitely, have a lot of ideas and part of all the conversations around proposals, around those conversations with potential funders or potential partners or clients. I'm usually involved at the beginning stages of all of that because training generally is the first piece of what we do. So yeah, and right now, because I bet what you're wondering, like, what are we doing now that
Oh,
COVID's hit, right?
yeah, yeah. It's as if you have a script.
It's
Um,
almost, I just, I don't know.
no, actually, I wanted to make a point that the podcast did an interview with your
Yes,
co-founders,
yeah.
Ed and Maura, from Lifetime Arts. Last month, we dropped their podcast episode. So if you want to learn more about the inner workings of the organization, that's a great place to learn directly from the sources. But yes, I do want to know, how is Lifetime? I mean, one of the things that is striking to me is that as an organization that is focused on older populations, and in this time, we know that older populations, older people are actually some of the most vulnerable uh, in potentially contracting the COVID-19 virus.
Hmm.
So I'm curious, one, what are you hearing from the organizations that you have been supporting, but also what is Lifetime Arts doing in this time, in terms of supporting and or what are they doing? What's the
Yeah,
response?
no, I mean, it's pretty devastating, honestly. All of our program is on, all of our, I should say, all of our partners programs are completely on hold indefinitely.
Mm,
In some cases, they're preparing for a minimum of 18 months of live programming to dead stop. So that also means that funding for the programming is on pause, which also could mean that our funding is on pause. We're hearing from our funders that it's not. So far, we're okay. But it's a real mission shift about what we are providing in terms of services at this very um, challenging time where people are so isolated, and part of our programming is to combat isolation with older
right.
adults and to bring them out and to give them opportunities to learn and grow in community and make art together. So we are doing a very, very exceedingly fast shift to bring as much of our services online as possible. So literally in the last 3 weeks, I have been writing furiously with my education partner and with our communications team, online content to start to provide actually free content. We don't normally provide it for free,
Mm,
but we feel like in this period of pause, people, a lot of what um, the infrastructure behind creative aging doesn't really exist the way it does in arts and education circles, say for the K through 12 world. It tends to be something that's not invested in the same way. It's much more passive. It's much more, oh, let's do a drop-in program, and that's the traditional model. And so this model of sort of residency-based, high-quality arts education takes a lot of infrastructure to build because people don't have budget lines for it. They don't necessarily know where to find the funders for it. They don't have partners for it. So what we're doing right now is saying, you know what? Here's 18 months to start your planning and to start to build your infrastructure.
mm,
Um, and simultaneously, a lot of our partners that have already started programming or we're in the midst of programming are trying to move their services online. So we're also trying to support them. How do you connect to the older adults? How do you deal with, technological sort of challenging situations? One, because there's not a lot of barrier and access problems, because older adults were taking, say, an improv class in like the library. some of those older adults may not have a computer at home or may not have a smartphone or all of the access that you need in terms of technology. So it's not even about, oh, they're not capable of learning. They very well probably are. It's just that they don't have the equipment. So there's all of these things that we're starting to build resources for. And in fact, if you, our whole website, we have shifted um, for as long as it needs to be shifted. So you open onto the website and it's a COVID-19 resource page and it directs to every resource that we found. Because we're not always the experts, certainly not on online learning, but we're connecting people to resources and proven places like the National Guild and other places that are really doing great work to support everybody in this kind of crazy period.
Mm. Yeah, there's so many questions that I have, but I think it's an incredible service that you were already embarking on over the last how many years? 12 years? Is that right? 13?
They've been around for 12 years. I've been with them for about 9 in different
Right.
capacities. Yeah.
And in this moment, I mean, so much of the conversation that I recall with Ed and Maura was about social engagement and that
Yes.
idea of losses and combating social isolation or isolation period and loss. And it's a big challenge, but I guess in your role, your whole focus is about supporting the organizations that are interested in serving these populations, right?
That's
So
right.
the resources are for those organizations to have a better sense of how to support their constituents, their
That's right.
people, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
And
That's right.
the whole point about access is the inequities that are
Absolutely.
very prevalent in our society on a good day,
Yeah.
on a great day where the market does great,
Mhm. Mhm.
it is glaring, so glaring in a situation like this, right?
Yeah.
And so that to me is an interesting thing that I feel like we could talk more about, but I want to get to your art. So don't let me forget that because I have a question at the end for you that I think
Okay.
will get us there. Okay. So
Okay.
tell me, you and I have known each other for many years. Uh, we have a little tiny theater company together. You are my theater partner. Um, and so how would you identify yourself as an artist?
It varies. I think primarily I'm just a maker. you know,
Hmm.
like sometimes it comes in the form of you and I sort of whittling away um, in our kind of beautiful organic way and relationship that we've developed that's kind of intentional and
Hmm.
um, slow paced, but it works for us and our many hats that we wear. And then other times, when I'm cast in a show, it's a lot faster, and I'm a maker then as an actor. Other times it kind of becomes like a directing hat that I'm wearing. So primarily, I sort of identify as, a lot a writer lately, but an actor at other times, and then a director when I'm lucky enough to get to do it.
Yeah, so I like that maker. I mean, I feel like we do, that's all we do. We sort of make stuff out of like big questions or themes, and then we start playing, and eventually it starts to take shape.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of how that takes shape. I find our process is very much me being like, what about this crazy idea? Is that a thing? And then we try it out and then we start to map it out and you're the one who like gets it on paper. I mean, you
Yeah.
obviously are also coming up with the crazy ideas and we're trying those out too, but I'm not great at the trend, like the what you can do in terms of the writing, which is why I think we are a great team.
I think so too. Yeah. I mean, it takes
Um,
I think that stewing and and I ask a lot of questions, and
mm,
you'll see with the poetry, when I write poetry, it's generally based very much on me. It's not about flowers. It's really about whatever I'm trying to process. Not that writing about flowers and the horizon's great too. I'm just saying generally when my poetry is I'm digging through something and I don't really know how not to write about me.
Well, I think
as a
that's the
writer,
point.
you know?
Yes, and I think that's actually the point is that you should be writing about something that is meaningful to you, that you're trying to get underneath,
Yeah,
which is why I think also why you and I work well together because we have this similar questions, but that we're always looking at it from our own points of view.
that's true. Yeah.
So I would
And then
love,
we open it up, you know?
and that, exactly, and then we try to find a way to make it universal for audiences, of course.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you're a poet in your
I
writing.
wouldn't even call myself a
Oh,
poet. I just have started writing poetry a lot in the last year and a
well,
half.
do you want to share some of what
Sure.
you've
Yeah, yeah,
written?
yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
If I have to minimize our screen. Um, yeah, so what I thought I'd share, um, I'm going to just share two of them. And I'm going to share one that I wrote right before COVID, like literally days before, and then one that I wrote this morning. So
Oh,
this first one is called Boundary. And just to give you a little background, this came out of a consent professional development workshop I was in. About giving consent or not giving consent. This was on stage, but anyway, this is for some reason I came out of this and I wrote this on the subway home, and it's called Boundary. What are the areas you cannot touch? What are your no-fly zones, your no trespassing, your do not enter? What should not be crossed or penetrated? Your wall built to withstand scaling, no breaching or breaking through. What are the boundaries you hold? Does the question alone feel like an offender, a predator? What might possibly be revealed in the unveiling of guardrails and the exposing of your whys? Does your foundation of carefully placed bricks become fragile with potential collapse? Or are you empowered by your imagined possible vulnerability? Will you be protected for your divulged disclosure? Or are you held hostage by the ties that bind? What will happen if a thought, an idea, an inspiration, a dream, or a soul somehow slips through, edges in, sneaks under and through the carefully constructed structures that were meant to protect and keep danger and destruction at bay? You may not be ready or prepared. How does one plan for that? However, as they say, if it isn't if, it is when. A tremor and a tiny crack will form. Will it be enough to begin the crumble, the demise, the demolition of the wall so high? Count yourself lucky if they fall, for the fortresses that remain standing do their job too well, and those that remain behind them there, still stuck, alone and abandoned by light, wonder, and discovery. Yes, some choppy and rough waters dare to send you adrift, but the sun rises too, which now you can see. That's Boundary.
hmm, that's nice. That was vivid.
Um, yeah, so this one I wrote this morning because, well, it'll be very clear why. Proof. Waking in sweat anxiety at 4 a.m., startled and acutely aware of the salty water dripping down my spine and back of knee. Nightmare disappears, but prickly fear still remains. Dread sticks to bones and distracting nerves, scream loudly in my chest, ringing and stinging my ears. Restless worry leaves no room for meditative attempts at breath, failure to clean the running commentary that flashes incessantly across my mind's movie screen. Chaotic thoughts flutter like a moth, flying repeatedly into a bright bulb, desperately seeking the light, confused by the mistaken escape route, only to be burned and slowly killed with each flap of wing. So, do I yearn for morning light, hoping that with the daybreak, the strangling weight will release its grip on my concentration and allow for peace, for some space and air to just be. Yet, in the dawning of the new day, hopeful aspirations descend like quicksand's trap, pulling the shades to let in the sun. Impending death and demise greet me, say good morning, and ask, who should we take today? Your mother, your father, your child? Staring angrily at the invisible enemy, I crawl unsteady from my bed, unsure of what's to come. The only power I possess is simple fortitude and perseverance. To choose to get up today, tomorrow, and the next, standing solidly with my brother, my sister, my friend, my foe, my neighbor, my stranger, my city, my country, and my world, all of us at war in a battle we might not win. But still we must rise, strong and mighty, against the hungry hunting contagion. We are united, a clan of humanity, proof to even ourselves that we are in fact all the same in basic but emphatic desire to love and to live. That's it.
Annie. Very good. It was
Oh,
very good.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, you know.
That's like I don't know, that's like Maya Angelou. I mean, but that's where I started to hear like rise up.
I know.
Will I
I
rise?
was I almost didn't even want to put rise in there at all, but I was like, all right. I had to. I struggled with that word, but it's a different
It's
kind
a
of
yeah,
rising.
of course, of course, of course. Well, yeah, I think it actually for all the things this poem. What was it called? It was the title of it, Proof.
Proof. Yeah.
This poem is a good segue to go back to what I wanted to talk about. So I have a two-part question. Okay, so what do you hope transforms as social engagement at some point gets reinstated? And what do you think we need to do now to prepare?
I think that if just speaking for myself, and it keeps changing for sure, but I sure don't give a shit about much anymore in terms of like the rat race, in terms
Mhm.
of like, you know, having a plan or some goal that seemed really important before. Now, in a lot of ways, those sort of tangible uh, pillars of, things that might mean success to me as a person don't seem important anymore. Um, so how that translates to social, just, it's sort of like when I'm running, I'm like, because I've been writing poetry and I'm like, I need to really like share this now. And it used to be that I just felt so embarrassed by it to a certain extent. And I'm feeling like we ain't got no time to be embarrassed, or we don't have any time to like, not call and, offer my services as an actor, or to not, tell somebody that I want to work with them. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
hoping that those walls of like um, kind of that top down or up top, or they're more than I am, or I'm less than them, or all of
Yeah.
that sort of ego things, or they're not going to be interested in working with me, or I'm too old to like, you know, be in that part or try out or try to do commercial acting again. Whatever the stories I play in my head a lot, I just don't give a shit anymore. And I'm just going to uh, be as creative and as artistic as I want to be. And I hope that for all of us. And like when I'm missing smiling at people because of the cover. And I feel like when we can finally be uncovered, that I'm hoping with that comes a real love and graciousness and acceptance of each other's gifts, and that it doesn't need to look traditional.
It doesn't have to look like what it used to.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
what the couple things that you're talking about is that white supremacist patriarchal society structures are so permeate everything
Mm-hmm.
and all the systems and all the structures, um, that that we just figured out how to navigate through. And now so much of that has been stripped away, and we have been stripped away from each other, that it does give us a moment to just be like, what is meaningful? What are what are something that's so simple, like going for a walk to the mailbox was so exciting. And it was a beautiful evening, and I was sort of strolling, but it was also like, I can't walk faster, like my body just won't move faster than this. But and the cover for the first time, like, okay, so today when I went down my block, and then down another block to get to the mailbox, but then I was on a main thoroughfare, Flatbush, and there were usually there's tons of people out there and lots of traffic, especially it was at 6:30, so there's there was very little traffic, there were very few people, and those of us who were out, most of us were masked, and my head went straight to we look like zombies because we're all walking slow. But based on both your proof, your poem.
Yeah, poem. Proof. It was called Proof.
Yeah, and that experience, it started to make me think about something different, about a mask off, right? In pre-COVID, there were tons of masks that we would wear.
Right.
If you think about social media, we've got a mask. If you talk about, all the things that you were just saying, we've got, layers and layers and layers of masks. But now we have a real mask, and we can't see each other smile, which is the universe. Like, a smile doesn't matter what language you speak. The fact all humans smile, and we understand what that means. But there's something that we are stripping away because we have to cover up for our safety and for the safety of others. That's another thing that I'm interested in, is how thinking about protecting yourself is actually protecting society. And we don't think, as Americans, we certainly don't think about that, because it's a capitalist society as well, right? So that shame that you were talking about, or that fear of why would I ask this person to do this thing or be a part, or who am I to think that I can, blah, blah, blah. Or on the other side of that, being so arrogant that without the skills, you could do anything.
Right.
All of that. But ultimately, I'm very excited about this conversation, but the idea of hope, or what we have to hope, is to actually get back to humanity.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
connecting.
Exactly.
And appreciation and inclusivity.
Inclusivity,
and being able to sort of take the literal mask off for health, but hopefully multiple layers
of masks
will come off as well.
Yeah.
I like that as a metaphor. Can you write something about that?
Yeah. I'll whip that up tomorrow morning.
Well, Annie, I adore you, as you know, and thank you so much for being here and sharing your art, and of course talking about all these things that
thanks for having me.
Hours.
No, I really love you, and I just, I want everyone to be safe and well, and keep sharing your art.
Yes,
put it out there.
You're doing my tagline out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The outro. No, it's perfect. It's perfect. You haven't even seen the show, so it's amazing that you already went there. Yeah, so thank you all for watching, for engaging, and remember to keep making art.